Bitcoiners, just give me 1 second. I need to get a mouse with the greatest design in the history of design. You got to do that. It's just the greatest thing. You have to charge. I had like 1% left of mouse power. I had to go live and save it for that. It doesn't let you use it when you plug it in. It's one of the stupid things of all time. So we're going to just have to live with it, right? I'm not going to be able to put up any of your comments for another, let's say, 10, 20 minutes. I'll let that battery charge, but I'll just read them out. Monkey Rides Bikes. It's good morning, Bitcoiners. Nick has a good day. Joseph Norwood, suit up, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to do Bitcoin. It's probably the greatest contribution that Ron DeSantis ever made to planet Earth. Do Bitcoin. Great job. Ben, buenos dias, ma gente. Buenos dias, indeed, Ben. Enmity, good morning. Sean recommends, good morning, all. Robert, good morning. RFK on Tucker just dropped for what it's worth. We'll be covering I didn't watch it all. I didn't have time, but I got enough of it there. Tommy, good morning to everyone doing Bitcoin. Tommy, the wonderful artist behind my awesome new logo, the Breakup 8-bit logo aesthetic, which we love. Bud Perry, morning, Bitcoiners. T-Dog, Yo-Yo, good morning, Bitcoiners. Sats for life. It's a great day for acceleration. This is one of the great all-time days for accelerationism, all right? It's one of the great all-time days for accelerationism. We got Janet Yellen, high as a kite. It's perfect. It's perfect. And it is a great day for accelerationism simply because the sun came up, right? We got a sunrise. Right? We're not in a catastrophe time. We got sunrise and Bitcoin's running, everyone. So all that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what is new. All right. We like to start every morning with the fakest news we can find, right? And this is another user-generated story. And this is really just about how lazy the mainstream media is, right? So what happens is, I've been involved in issuing press releases, publishing press releases, right? I worked for CoinDesk for a long time. We had a business at one point in 2016 of just publishing press releases. We charged something like $0.5 Bitcoin at the time, or some ridiculous amount, or maybe $0.25 Bitcoin or something. And we would just publish press releases. We had a separate site, a separate page on the website for press releases. It was a good little business. And the point of the business was so that we never vetted what was coming through. We literally said, we're not going to vet this. It's up to you to spell it correctly and edit it correctly. We just didn't have the manpower. And that was just a startup with about 5 people working for it, talking about only Bitcoin at the time and, some other things. But what do the big subsidized Canadian news channels do with press releases? Is it any different than the 5-man operation at CoinDesk circa 2016? No, it's the same. So this weekend, the Liberal Party put out a press release. It looks like they put out a press release. And this is how press releases are handled by the Canadian media. This is why they need billions of dollars in subsidies every year. These are 4 separate news entities, maybe with 4 separate ownership structures, but they all get money from the same place. They all open up and pucker up for that big old Trudeau money. All right. And this is what they all come through with. CTV News. You don't need to know these names. They're Canadian, so they're very stupid, and only stupid people read it. All right. I guarantee only stupid people read any 4 of these news outlets in Canada. So I'll say the names just to show that they're different. They're only 4 people with, not a lot going on. So CTV News. Pauliver's the Bitcoiner, by the way. That's the only reason why I'm reading this. Pauliver is the Canadian Bitcoin guy who could be the next prime minister in Canada if there's fair elections. We'll see. I doubt it. I think Trudeau's got as good a chance of winning again as Biden, which is a very good chance. Very good. Not because of fairness. CTV News. Pauliver's Conservative Party embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. That's the first one. All right. So that's CTV News. Now, theoretically, there are other news sources in Canada. All right, let's try the Toronto Star, theoretically a privately owned newspaper. Polliver's Conservative Party embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. Embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. Okay, CBC News, what do they have to say? Polliver's Conservative Party embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. City News, Polliver's Conservative Party embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. So this is literally journalists. Because it's summer vacation, they didn't really even pay attention. Like, yeah, run it, just run that, right? So there you get 4 separate news entities. What are the odds? What are the odds that embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories, so that's 5 words, would just appear in 4 separate headlines that have nothing to do with each other? There's nothing to do with it, right? Nothing. So there you go. Here's 3 headlines from the United States. Not related, but funny. So I'm going to read them all in an order. Spectator Index, 852 billion was added to the fortunes of the world's 500 wealthiest people in the first half of 2023. 1 second. Wall Street Journal exclusive, more Americans are ending up homeless at a record rate. So all kinds of money to the rich people. More Americans are ending up homeless in the second one. And now this one. This is just a glorious headline. No punchline needed. The economic and political genius of Jay Powell. The economic and political. He's and political genius. He's both. He's an economic and political genius. Wow. Jay Powell for president. This one's one of our favorite subgenres, like things that you didn't know were racist, right? We love this one. USA Today. The U.S. coffee business is disproportionately white. Uh-oh. From the trade business to boardrooms to baristas behind the counter, people of color can be hard to find, said Phyllis Johnson, founder of the Coffee Coalition for Racial Equity. So, guys, if you're a barista and you're white, you're not really doing your part, okay? You're not doing your part. So don't do it. Here's one from New York City. The Mayor Adams blames border states. It's the border states for creating the migrant funnel to New York City. It's the border states. It's the border states. MSNBC, this one's good. This one's really awesome, guys. You're going to love it. All right. To win again, Joe Biden needs to be highlighting Kamala Harris, not hiding her. It's all about Kamala. Harris was Biden's history-making choice. That's why it's so confusing. Team Biden hasn't used her talents more. It's so confusing. Why haven't they used her talents more? Why not? We don't know. And of course, I promised you a new subgenre. Oliver Anthony attack news articles, right? Remember I promised you a new genre? The north of Richmond guy, right? He's getting all kinds of fake news, Moscow Time written about him. Here's the National Review. Oliver Anthony's fuzzy lament. It's his fuzzy lament. It was a fuzzy lament, guys. It was just a fuzzy lament. It was a lament, but it was fuzzy, okay? And here's what they say. Next time, Oliver Anthony should consider singing about what makes America a great land, a land of opportunity, not of guaranteed success, a land made for you and me, right? Next time, Oliver, sing about something else. Next time, he should consider singing about what makes America great. Not again. No. That National Review is not into great again. They're just into what makes it great. It's great, right? They hate the great again. And that's really what it all comes down to. That's why today's theme, how guns, germs, and stealing make a viral plan B, right? So the reason I say that, and again, it's why I continue to bring up one of the reasons why people like myself love Donald Trump. We love him. I love Donald Trump. It's love. It's pure love. I don't necessarily want him to be the next president, right? We'll get into who I think could make a better choice at this time. But if he would win, I'd still be super happy, right? It's just not my number one choice. He was absolutely my number one choice in 2016 and in 2020. For other reasons, right? We want to change. We like Vivek. We like RFK. There's a lot going on. We don't need them. They're part of the plan B in a sense, right? Trump, I think, still has this great opportunity. We'll see what happens, right? So at once, I would be very happy for him to win. I'm very happy. But the reason that I love him is not because he can win this time, or he didn't win last time, or he did win in 2016. The reason I love him, and I've mentioned it many times, this is for people who are new. I saw we had 70,000 views yesterday. It's a lot. It's a lot. We're getting popular, right? I think we are, by the way. I'm already advertising this as the #1 daily Bitcoin news show in viewership. I think we are. Right? I haven't seen anything else that gets. We get now between 2 to 10,000 viewers per episode, and that does indeed make us the #1 daily. Right? There's other bigger Bitcoin shows out there. They're not daily, right? So we're daily, so it's a different category, and we're a news show, so it's not exactly right. It's a small category that we're the biggest of. It's not the biggest Bitcoin show, period. The biggest Bitcoin daily news show. I think that's accurate, right? I think that's accurate. So yesterday we had a huge audience. So if anyone else is new, I'll just explain where Trump love comes from. Love for Trump, for someone like myself, who was involved in politics before I got into Bitcoin, right? I'm a 2013 Bitcoiner. I got into Bitcoin because I'd already given up on the political process by 2013. I'd worked in politics thinking it would lead to something good, right? We won power in Canada. I worked for Stephen Harper. But I realized immediately the Canadian media, just sick people, right? I realized how rotten the system was. And the minute I saw Trudeau and I saw everyone going, oh, what a great guy, I knew the fix was in, and it was not going to work, right? It was not going to work. We were not going to get what I had hoped at the time as a naive person coming out of law school, thinking that the political system could be manipulated or affected from the inside, and we can get somewhere, right? I really believe that. I graduated law school in the 2008 meltdown time, so putting your hopes into the political process at that time still seemed like a good choice, right? The world hadn't completely changed. But what I realized by the time I saw Trump was that the system was so broken, there was no fixing it from the inside. And that's why I was already attracted to Bitcoin, because we were looking for plan Bs. We were looking for something else besides the democratic political process in order to reinvigorate the systems that run our world. And so I'd already given up on politics. But when I saw Trump, I said, oh, wait a minute, this could actually work. This guy is amazing. And because the thing that he did for early people like myself who were involved in politics before was he destroyed the old dichotomy of right and left, of blue and red, by himself infecting from the inside the Republican Party and destroying whatever balance had been created by then with the Bush and the Cheneys and the Reagans and all of these groups and factions that had worked together for years. He came in and just smashed it. And that's what needed to happen, right? Someone like myself who was working inside of that system knew that the way it was organized looked more and more like controlled opposition and less like an effective back and forth between two opposing points of view. It was not exactly that. I could perceive something like a uniparty inside of it while I worked there, right? Now, I didn't have access to this uniparty thing. I couldn't touch it. I couldn't feel it. I didn't know anyone who worked for it. I didn't know anyone who had been conscripted into some uniparty thing. There was no one out there saying, hey, join the uniparty, right? It was nothing like that. It was nothing like that. I just knew there was something that didn't make sense. And when Trump came out and you could see it, this darkness inside of the Republican Party come out through Jeb Bush surrogates and all these other people, that Trump was able to so effectively handle them at a time when the brainwashing against Trump could be ignored easily, right? People who were inside of watching the show, and I was only watching on the side, at the same time as this was going on. I was 100% now. I'd quit politics. I was only working in Bitcoin. And I had to regularly sort of hold myself back from getting into anything political around Trump, because basically I knew, my destiny was, I'd already made my choice to go with Bitcoin as my actual plan B, not Trump doing the same thing I had tried before from the inside, affecting things. And I remember I was at a 2016 Bitcoin thing that we had organized with CoinDesk in New York City. And it was the night Trump had beat Ted Cruz to not officially win the nomination, but it was the last real obstacle. Everything after that was just sort of pro forma. And I was invited to Trump Tower to party, and with the Trump, campaign, just I knew someone, I was in New York, and I said, you know what? I had a separate invite for Bitcoin stuff. And of course, I chose Bitcoin. And I said, well, I really have to leave that life behind of politics. And there's no answers there, right? I'll continue to enjoy the show that is Donald Trump. But the love of Trump came from that time, right? What he did to the Republican Party in 2015 and 2016 for someone like myself who really wanted the result that he produced, which was a kind of schism within the Republicans and a division. And now you get what we see, right? And what we see is Glenn Greenwald mentioning it here, right? What we see is the National Review. So even that thing that I just read about Oliver Anthony, right? The rich men north of Richmond, right? He should write, if he writes about a song next time, it should be about how great America is, right? That National Review used to be one of these conservative media outlets, right? It used to be where conservatives went to be smart and to be intellectual. Oh, we're just as smart and intellectual as New York Times readers. This is our New Yorker, right? We're also intellectuals, right? These are the people that needed to be put in a corner and beaten already in 2015 and 2016 because they were the people who were rationalizing war, right? They were already coming out against Trump at the time, and we loved what Trump did to them. Right. And now you see their true colors coming out against Oliver Anthony. You're not patriotic like we are, all this kind of stuff. And then Glenn Greenwald here mentions all the defectors, right? The Lincoln Project and all of those people that are there. You get Billy Crystal, right? You get, just really reprehensible, absolutely disgusting people, one of whom really should be dropped from space when all of that happens, just as a sign, right? Don't be a propagandist for these things. Glenn Greenwald here bringing up this connection, right? So this is what he says. He says, and this has everything to do with Billy Crystal now, interacting with Aaron Rupar on tweets. Aaron Rupar, if you don't know who Aaron Rupar is, he is the video editor for CNN who always creates the fake clips that are all lies, right? He created the edit of Charlottesville, which takes away Trump saying, I denounce fully white supremacy and da-da-da-da, right? So that guy, he does it all the time. He did the edit on the drinking bleach hoax, right? So he is a guy who deceptively edits videos. You should not ever treat him like a journalist. He is a whatever mockingbird. He is a partisan, right? He is an absolute partisan with an agenda that we don't need to mind read him about, right? We can just look at the proof of his work. He's out there editing and lying, right? That's his job. So here he is in conversation in a tweet in a thread with a former conservative, right? A former Bush, Cheney surrogate. Oh, liberals are the worst. This was him. This was Billy Crystal a few years ago. Liberals are the worst, right? So here he is talking about, because now they're starting to talk about, is Biden too old, right? Is Biden too old, right? We don't know. He says, Dean Phillips' suggestion, made in good faith and at political risk to himself, that Biden running at 82 is kind of a problem, that he might step aside after a successful one term, and there are well-qualified next-generation Democrats who could step up, seems sensible, right? That's Billy Crystal. Aaron Rupar, it would be absolutely insane to squander the incumbency advantage, especially given the strong record Biden has to run on. Vague concerns about age, when there is no indication he's in poor health. Aaron Rupar, there's no indication that he's in poor health. There's none. All right, guys, none. There's no indication that he's in trouble, that he's in poor health, are not sufficient reason to subject a party to another bruising primary, right? So Glenn Greenwald responds to this. Aaron Rupar replies to a Billy Crystal tweet. And he has a question. Where do Dem loyalists go to earnestly discuss optimal strategies for the party? I would still like to hear a single left liberal explain why the neocons they were calling Nazis just 10 years ago are now their most steadfast allies. And here's what he says, right? Here's what he says. To me, the Dem neocon alliance, which predates Trump, but not exactly, right, makes perfect sense. Neocons haven't changed a single one of their core views. They just now perceive accurately that Dems serve those views better than the GOP, but no Dem wants to admit that, right? Here's what he says. Billy Crystal, at the end of the day, Biden has been pro-democracy, pro-Ukraine, and pro-securing our financial system. pro securing our financial system. The Republican Party is none of those things, right? So that's why they've joined with them now and created this thing. Now, remember, the thing, though, is that because Trump did this, because Trump started to basically shuffle the deck so that people were destabilized and new alliances were formed. And that's why the Plan B project, let's call it, right, what we're doing with Bitcoin, really has everything to do with changing the contrast that we argue around, right? The tension has always been red versus blue, right versus left. Bitcoin, of course, shuffles that into orange versus green, or establishment versus anti-establishment. Really, it's in the line of what Trump started to turn the conversation towards, right? He got it out of the fake prison of left and right and the binaries and the opposite tensions that came from that, right? Which were usually fake, right? Usually just fake. The tensions that you see even to this day around the trans issue, all of this is manufactured, right? And that's why I always resist and try to warn everyone who's sort of still aligned with Republican things, stay away from this stupid trans debate, right? Now, I get it, kids, I get it all. I get it. Very difficult stuff, right? Part of a culture war. So you would be, you would see it and say, oh, that's part of this thing that we got to get involved with. But remember that Republican or right-leaning news can lead you astray just as easily as Democrat news can, right? And constantly pushing on this LGBTQ plus blah, 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 blah button. I'm not saying there's innocent people on the side that is bringing kids to the things and all of that stuff, right? The drag shows, of course, we're against it. But the separate question is, do you have to consume content every single day that gets you angry about thing, drag show or whatever, right? Now, look, I get why you're angry, but I'm talking about consuming the content that gets you angry, right? I'm talking about having debates that this occupies our entire mind space while there's other things that are happening around us that are far more important. Now, I get it. It is an important issue. I understand why people want to talk about it, but what I'm warning against is the political divisions and the right. It's a remnant of right left. It's a remnant of right left, right? And it can get you caught and stuck in that. While at the same time, there's way more going on. Look at what else is going on, right? It's not just that the media has been scrambled or whatever, right? You're still seeing it in the political parties, right? The same people that are going to get you all angry about trans, they're going to ban it, right? Florida, DeSantis, right? He's so anti-woke, right? He's going to get the woke people. But remember what I said about DeSantis and the woke thing. If you go with a guy like DeSantis, you're going to get more woke stuff, right? He's the anti-woke warrior. What happens when you're the anti-woke warrior? Well, you bring up more woke people to counter you. It's not like everyone's going to love DeSantis, right? I don't even think it's close, right? So the situation now in Georgia is very similar. You know, Georgia next door to Florida. And what happened now in Georgia is the GOP, right? The same thing that, as I said, I'll always love Trump for putting a bomb inside of the GOP and scrambling everything and changing it. What we see in Georgia, so Trump indicted again yesterday, right? They're going to arrest him again, right? And now this time it's the GOP doing it, right? Because the GOP, of course, controls Georgia. And so here's the kinds of things that they're saying, right? They had one of the GOP people on yesterday from the lieutenant governor of Georgia, right? The GOP lieutenant governor. And they're talking about the Trump indictment, right? So here's what he said, right? He sucked the soul out of the Republican Party. Agreed. He did. He sucked the soul right out of it, right? This is him talking about it. He's taken everything from us, and it is our turn to take it back, right? And then he says, our turn. This is the position of the anti-Trump Republican today ahead of 2024. The ones cheering the indictments, clarifying. And I will tell you, these are the same people that are like, stop the woke shit. Right now, again, I don't want any kids going to any of these things, right? So don't make it sound like I'm saying I'm pro any of this. I'm not, right? I'm pro LGBT the stuff, right? But that's because I give any adults the benefit of the doubt that they know what they want to do with their life, and if it's not what I want to do, I don't really care, right? The Bitcoin world, Plan B, the simplest way to describe the world we're entering with Bitcoin and the separation of money and state is I'm not the boss of you and you're not the boss of me. That's it. That's it, right? There's no boss here. So what am I supposed to say to the parents of kids who want to do this stuff? There's nothing. I have nothing to say to them, right? They're free to do what they want with their kids, I guess, and so that's fine, right? Now, I'm not taking, I'm not promoting any of this stuff. That's a separate question. I think a lot of it comes from a lot of the reason why people are there and going to these things is to protest against the types of Republicans who would say you can't go, right? So in that way, I kind of get it. Like I kind of get it, right? Now, again, I don't want to do it and I'm not interested in it and I will never participate, but it's a part of the story, right? And if you don't see it that way, if you don't see why people are wasting their time with this stuff, and I'm a fan of the Daily Wire, but why is like 50% of the Daily Wire's content has nothing to do? Have they ever talked about Bitcoin on the Daily Wire? 0 times. 0. Ben Shapiro's done like one video 4 years ago or something when Bitcoin was really popular. Other than that, it's, look at the kid wearing a dress. And oh my God, that mom let the kid put lipstick on and he's a boy. Oh no, right? Now, it's a waste of time. It's a stupid waste of time. I get why a guy like Matt Walsh, who I think is entertaining. I'm a fan. I like it, right? I like the content as entertainment. It's not like policy driven. It's not ways to remake the world. It's not as interesting as Bitcoin in the sense that it's not getting to the heart of the problem. It's not doing any of those things. It's just more outrage, right? It's more, did you see what Trump said yesterday, except a different version of it, right? Again, what Trump did to the party, and remember, the Daily Wire were never supporters of Trump back in 2015, 2016. When I was saying that Trump and what he was doing to the Republican Party was the best news ever, they were saying, oh, it's so bad, right? Oh, no, you shouldn't do those things. So it's a major, major, major difference that happened and began at that time. So now we're in this world where you get a Republican group that is trying to indict. This is the 4th indictment for Trump, right? It's becoming absolutely ridiculous. Cernovich had some really interesting things to say about the GOP around this, right? Saying that the Fulton County District Attorney indicted Trump under Georgia's RICO law. Reuters obtained the documents. The grand jury is still meeting. The law isn't being followed because they actually released the entire indictment before the grand jury was even meeting because the fix was in, right? This is what Michael Gimmerin said about it. Today sealed it for me. The indictment was so sloppy. They don't care. Cernovich called this years ago. Judges and lawyers in 2024. GOP has no path. Only thing we can hope for is Biden holds on and we don't get 2-term gruesome hair gel Hitler Newsom. I'm from California and San Francisco. You do not want Newsom. Look, Newsom thing, that dog ain't gonna hunt unless it's completely cheated, right? And that's kind of what I think is accurate in this, saying the GOP has no hope. They don't, right? But it isn't about the GOP anymore. And when I say it's about Plan B, it's also just about Plan B politically, right? So after Trump, you get Trump and you get Biden. After those two, each of them, the second runners, the people in second place in either party, are really, really important for what is going on here. And they really make a Plan B viable, right? And I'll explain. So at the same time that the media is sort of falling apart in this way, even Fox yesterday took to attacking Vivek, right? Just to show you how uniparty the machine is and how you can now see the uniparty and the machine operate, right? That's been one of the greatest things since COVID and since all of this legal trouble around January 6th, right? Just the attempt at the magic trick. And it was an attempt at a magic trick, right? That they could convince Americans that trespassing with no weapons was a coup, right? That is a very ambitious magic trick. And if you are trying to be a hypnotist and you're saying, I'm going to go with this much of a softening of their mind before I try the trick, right? I'm going to try the trick of telling them that they witnessed an insurrection, right? But no guns and just trespassing will be the offenses, right? That is a major, sort of. You got to have faith in the hypnotist's ability if you're going to go with that. And in the end, it didn't work, right? It didn't work. There's enough people for now that continue to believe in it. But I remember the minute Fox started to send mixed messages in the 2020 election, I deleted the app. I have not looked at Fox News since, right? Because shit like this, right? They fired Tucker Carlson, and here's them trying to do a fake news move on Vivek, right? And just to show you why these Plan B candidates, following in the tradition of Trump, breaking down the right-left dichotomy, breaking down the fake prison of blue and red, and beginning the shift, right? Because that's what I'm getting at. Trump is the beginning of the shift to seeing things between orange and green, fiat and Bitcoin, establishment and anti-establishment, right? So they come after, Fox News yesterday comes after Vivek about drugs, right? They're saying Vivek Ramaswamy breaks with GOP on decriminalization of hard drugs. I'm in that direction is the quote they gave. This is Fox News, right? Now attacking who I think is clearly the second place candidate. If DeSantis drops out, if Trump dropped out today, they, whatever, blew him away, actually arrested him, did some crazy shit. Number two, without a doubt, right? The person who goes from number two into number one and steals all and collects, gathers, whatever you want to call it, all of Trump's support is Vivek. DeSantis gets zero. If anyone saw DeSantis this weekend at the Iowa fair, right? If anyone, the Iowa fair, right? So Iowa, in primary season, all the candidates have to go. You had to feel sorry for DeSantis. You just had to feel sorry for him. He was there trying to sell like eggs on a stick, right? Eggs on a stick. Meanwhile, you have Vivek, who handled a pansexual in the way we ought to be handling, not the Daily Wire way, or you're a stupid pansexual idiot, right? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you being gay or whatever it is, right? The same shit they were trying for years. Vivek, in like a 5-minute thing, absolutely masterclass in how to deal with the questions, the tension, all of it. In the end, the pansexual person was like, I'll probably vote for you. It looked like that anyway, right? And of course, imagine you're good enough, as Vivek is. Imagine you're good enough that just your answer, your off-the-cuff answer to a question is enough to go viral, right? And then you get DeSantis, eggs on a stick. And Trump trolled him, right? Trump, when he was trying to give a speech outside, Trump flew by with his jet to make noises. And then Trump, ever the competitive person, right, just planted him in the face when they come to Trump and, what do you think about DeSantis? And then he goes, well, I heard the crowds were tiny. There was no one there. And it's true. No one was there to watch DeSantis, right? Just absolute garbage, right? And so Vivek now getting treated this way by Fox because he is a threat, I think, to the uniparty, to the fake prison of right and left, the fake prison of red and blue, right? He's an enemy to that because, as they say, he breaks with the GOP. Oh my God, he breaks with the GOP, right? The GOP who indicted Trump, and the GOP from Georgia who indicted Trump. Here's what he says, right? This is Vivek now handling Fox as well as he's handling CNN, right? He goes, more planted trash, talking about Fox, right? Very important. I support decriminalizing ayahuasca and ketamine for veterans suffering from PTSD. So he's not there to decriminalize hard drugs. I'm in that direction, right? No, he's giving nuance and context and detail. To prevent the epidemic of fentanyl and suicide, it's pathetic that establishment candidates are using lies as a substitute for a message. When you strike the swamp strikes back, right? So, and then, it even goes further. You get Glenn Greenwald here talking about, now CNN is going to change its lineup, right? They're going to have less. They're moving their stars around, right, so that they can get better ratings. And he says, I find humor in the way CNN every few months, in a desperate attempt to salvage collapsing ratings, takes the same people nobody wants to watch, spouting the same partisan tripe they always spout, and fiddles with the times they come on. thinking this will change things, right? And he says, here's a chart published by the Wall Street Journal on the same story about how CNN shuffles morning primetime lineups amid sagging ratings. And he shows the ratings, and he also shows how Fox is in a free fall from the moment Tucker left the show, right? From the moment Tucker left the show or the network, it's garbage. And the numbers are way down, just like MSNBC, just like CNN. So the capacity of all of these entities, the capacity of the entire uniparty, not just in the population that they get to believe what they say, but in the population they get to fight about the things they say fight about, right? That's the important thing. That's what's going away. That's what's going away. The tension around the made up fake shit isn't going to be conjurable anymore, right? They're not going to be able to conjure it. And we know this because Fox yesterday, right? Fox's previous star, Tucker, had RFK on yesterday. So again, the plan B situation becomes very obvious, right? Even if Trump has taken off, what he's done, the legacy of Trump and the effect he's had on the Democrat Party has created Vivek. It's created him, right? Vivek has seen what he could copy. Vivek has seen what works, what didn't work. And he is basically a Trump candidate. He says, I agree with Trump on every one of the issues. He's already articulated his major advantage over Trump, which is that he doesn't cause Trump derangement syndrome, right? He doesn't cause people to go crazy about everything that the person says. Without the Trump derangement syndrome, if you take Trump derangement syndrome away from Trump, right, he's probably the most effective communicator in the history of American politics. And that might now be Vivek, right? Because he is looking more and more not like the tribute band. DeSantis was the tribute band to Trump. He was just able to play the same tunes. He wasn't able to put out originals. He wasn't able to do anything like that, right? Vivek puts out original stuff, brand new, but it's in the same spirit. It's in the same line. And he's doing it not because he's just aping it, right? He's actually doing it himself from his own skills and his own talent and his own intelligence. If you saw, like I said, DeSantis is there with the egg on a stick. It was literally boiled eggs on a stick that he was selling or giving or doing something. Imagine people criticized you for being boring. And of all the things you can do in Iowa, you come up with eggs on a stick. Like that. In 2023, egg on a stick. They're not even painted like boobs or butts or anything. It's just an egg on a stick. Was it hot? I don't know anything about eggs on a stick. I've never tried one in my life. I'm never going to eat an egg on a fucking stick. Okay. I'm not interested. I don't mind boiled eggs, but on a stick, what's up with the stick? Let me just have an egg. So they have this egg on a stick thing. And of course he's done. He just looked like he was like, what am I doing here? This is dumb. I got to get on with my, and his career's over now. Right. Like, I don't think he's not getting VP, right? Vivek probably will. So at the same time as you can see Fox in free fall and Vivek going after Fox, and Trump's been going after Fox for a long time. Because, of course, Fox invented this partisan business model to argue and debate the way they do. And now that Tucker's off Fox, right, he has his own show. RFK was on yesterday. And this was exactly what they talked about. RFK mentioned exactly this. He says Fox created the blueprint for this, and now all the corporate media has followed, right? And we've said that here before, right? We've said many times, whenever we've criticized MSNBC for their business model of just telling lies to Democrats, telling them exactly the lie they want to hear, and CNN doing the same, right? We've mentioned before that when CNN tried to go straight last autumn, we commended CNN. Way to go. What did we predict here on the Breakup? It wasn't going to work. Their audience wasn't going to go for it, right? It would be like trying to subject Trump's audience with like negative news about Trump. They don't want to hear it, right? They don't want to hear it. So people don't want to hear that kind of stuff. So it would be like, I don't know, like let's just make a show about all the problems with Bitcoin. All right. Now there are problems with Bitcoin, but how many people want to watch a show for an hour every day about the problems of Bitcoin? Not a lot, right? It's not a high demand type of show. Now I get why people think about the problems and they should be thought about and all that stuff. And I don't want to prevent anyone from thinking about it, of course, but all I mean to say is if you're creating a media product, there's no market for that, right? And so CNN tried a thing which I said there was no market for. And of course, they had to fire their CEO because he put Trump on the air. They tried to play so straight, right? And Trump won over the crowd so quickly that they had to apologize. They had to apologize for Trump's persuasiveness on their show because it conflicted with so much of the programming that CNN had already downloaded onto their audience that the audience hated them for it, right? They hated them for it. And so the CNN fired its CEO, and they took a totally different route, and that's where we are now. Now, of course, we've talked about that many times, right? When we talk about MSNBC's business model or CNN's business model, they learned that from Fox, right? And RFK said that in the interview yesterday. Now they RFK had a great line about it, right, where he says that if I believed the stuff that was written about me in the mainstream papers, I wouldn't vote for me. It's that bad, right? And getting into what a lie the whole system has become. And then so they ended up chatting more about on the show with Tucker yesterday. They talked about one of the more important stories, which we have never really been able, because there's war clandestine. There aren't a lot of people willing to put their name next to this story, right? And that is the biolabs in Ukraine, right? But they talked about it yesterday. So on the show, they talked a little bit about Fox News and the media business, and they also talked about why America is maybe even at war in Ukraine in the first place, right? So here he comes out and says that the U.S. has funded biolabs in Ukraine. We have biolabs in Ukraine because we are making bioweapons, he says, right? RFK then, gives a breakdown of the U.S. bioweapons industry in Ukraine, right? Tucker then says the people who covered it got attacked for covering it, but the fact remains that we have biolabs in Ukraine, right? Now, they also talked about the history of Ukraine and how America performed a coup there, right? So this is what he says. Robert Kennedy exposes how the U.S. overthrew the Ukrainian government in 2014. During the Ukrainian riots in 2014, Kennedy asserted that the U.S., through USAID, convergently funded the unrest, leading to the overthrow of Ukraine's neutral, democratically elected government. A month prior to the overthrow, a now public secret call between Victoria Nuland and Ukraine's U.S. ambassador occurred, where she, Nuland, is picking the new cabinet for Ukraine. So they're picking the new government a month before the old government is overthrown. And so they also, within that, get in more details about the Fauci and biolab stuff, right? So they're talking about the biolabs. His answer is, and if it's true, right, we're in completely new territory. I think it's true. I have no reason to doubt it's true. I only, he could be wrong, right? But I don't think he's lying. We've said that many times. We do not support RFK because he's right at all. We don't think he's right about much. We just don't think he's lying. And that's the best you can do right now, right? Wrong, okay. Lying, the worst. That's where we're at, right? So he says, Anthony Fauci got all the responsibility for bioweapons development. In 2014, 300 scientists wrote to President Obama and said, you've got to shut down Anthony Fauci because he is going to create a microbe that will cause a global pandemic. And so Obama signed a moratorium and shut down the 18 worst of Anthony Fauci's experiments, where most of them were taking place in North Carolina by a scientist called Ralph Baric. Instead of obeying that law, Anthony Fauci shifted lots of his operations offshore. And those operations end up mostly in Wuhan, which is a military lab, and many of them went to Ukraine. Where is the outcry from the mainstream media, New York Times, Washington Post, anyone, right? So they talked about the coup. They talked about the biolabs in Ukraine. But then the first conversation that they had was another really interesting one. So remember, they talked about the biolabs, right? Then they talked about his own personal security, right? Now, remember, the first thing I said, I think the first thing most people thought when they heard that a guy named Bobby Kennedy was running for president was, I hope he has a bulletproof vest or a good security, right? Because what happens when Kennedy's run for president looks a lot like getting shot in the head, right? And so people warning, even the first time I met Kennedy and I saw him with only one security guard, at first I said, that guy, at first I kind of brainwashed myself into saying, oh, he's safe. That guy looks like it's good. I've come to believe that I had a form of cognitive dissonance at the time, right? I do not believe, I think I've even said out loud, oh, he's in good shape. He's safe. That it looks like they're taking it seriously, right? I've thought about it more since then. And I realize now that that's not the case. I think I was just hallucinating it because I didn't want to admit what I was seeing, which is he's very vulnerable, very vulnerable. He said on the show last night, he's already had someone break into his house. He gets regular death threats. I think most of us, as I said, think he's a vulnerable person just being a Kennedy running for president. And now he's talked about how he can't get Secret Service detail, right? Now, we knew this for a while. Now, the fake news said, and they put a community notes, oh, you only get it 180 days out, so you're full of shit, Kennedy, right? Kennedy brought up all the people that have gotten it before, Jesse Jackson, Herman Cain, all kinds of people have had it 500 days out, 400 days out from the election. And all of it, by the way, even started after his dad was killed, right? After his dad was killed as a candidate running for the Democrat nomination. It's been since then that Secret Service as a pro forma just gives details to each of these people. So his belief on the show was that they're just trying to make him waste money, and he's got to hire his own detail. It costs him about $200K a month because you got to fly them, you got to house them, you got to Now, again, what I would love to see, right? And I think you might see it. I think if they continue to pull this shit, you're going to get a volunteer core, which would be the best, right? I would love to see a volunteer core of like Bitcoiners defending him. That would be really, really badass. We got to hope for that stuff. But here's an amazing thing, and I don't think anyone has even heard this yet, right? So again, Fauci, personal security, Trump might get arrested. Luckily, Vivek's there as plan B. People talking about Biden not being able to run. What's happening with plan B in the Democrats? Looks like it's only Kennedy. We'll see about Gavin. But remember, right, this whole thing about Fauci that he's mentioning and his personal security. Well, remember the other day when I said, and I brought up the story as like big change, something huge is happening, right? Rand Paul, right, brought criminal reference for Fauci, right? I think it was even the one of my AI generated thumbnails was Fauci falling from space, right? Because the criminal proceeding is beginning. We're going to find out more about this Fauci character. Well, do you know what happened to Rand Paul that night? Did anyone see? Did anyone see what happened? Right? Did you hear about it? You want to know what happened? They burned his fucking office down. Did you know that? That his office was firebombed when he brought the criminal charges against Fauci? Here, look. Senator Rand Paul's office was burned in a raging fire on Friday morning, coincidentally following one day after referring Fauci for prosecution. The cause of the blaze is currently unknown. I didn't even hear about it, right? Now, I don't even know if it's true. I'm just hearing people on Twitter saying about it. It could absolutely be fake, right? Here's another person, right? Update on the state of Rand Paul's office in Bowling Green. I took these photos this week. Rand's office is underneath the majority of the damage. It's sick if someone deliberately set fire to his office and the other businesses. I'm praying the investigation uncovers the truth. He had a staffer stabbed last week, right? He was attacked at his house, right? Is this what happens? I don't know. I mean, is it what happens when you bring criminal reference against Fauci? Does Fauci control this kind of violence? I don't know anymore. I mean, I thought he was just a nerd who wore a lab coat in his house when he had to go on TV. I never counted him for like a violent guy, right? But this ain't looking good, right? It looks a lot like what RFK is saying now. Remember, RFK has said he's had people break into his house recently. He had someone break into the second floor of his house, right? So we'll see, right? We'll see. But the violence that you see and the physical dangers that you see, and now our inability to use the normal mainstream media to even look into this stuff, right? Like I'm telling you right now, I do not know if Rand Paul's office was burned at all deliberately. AP News reported the Rand Paul fire on July 21st. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, again, Jevy, I could barely find news on it. So it was very difficult to even put it in place before we did the show, right? So I don't even know when it happened. Like that's how unfindable it kind of was, right? Now, is it a zero story? It could be. It could just be nothing. It could be, he hit a building, fire. He might have several offices, right? That's possible. I've known senators who have had multiple constituency offices around a state, plus an office in DC, of course, right? They have pretty large research budgets that are you're allowed to spend. I think they get like $2 million a year for research or something like that, as part of the congressional research budget allocation. I know because I tried to get more in the Canadian Senate based on the American numbers, because we get not even close to the same amount. So this inability to use the mainstream media to even navigate these questions is why you have such an appetite for no longer fighting things in red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat, why the cards are getting shuffled so heavily right now, why so many Republicans or Trump supporters love RFK and love Vivek, right? So these stories are indicative of a wider shift, a much wider shift of those that are falling into the dichotomy and the fake prison of two ideas and those who aren't. So you can see it go further though as you push into the other subjects that are happening around us, right? Just take a look at this Hawaii situation again, right? We talked about the Hawaii situation yesterday. We simply don't know what's happening there. We have no place to go to look for information at all, right? What we do know is that Biden tried to put a $700, like they're all going to get gift cards now for $700, right? On the same day that he gave billions more to Ukraine. So a lot of people bringing that up today, right? You get Guy Swan saying Biden just asked Congress for $24 billion more dollars for Ukraine. Maui victims get $700 each. Population of Maui is 180,000. 24 billion will turn into $130,000 for each Maui resident. Instead, we've sent well over 100 billion to Ukraine. And so he says, I'll let you do the math, right? Now, while this is going on, right, and here's we were talking about this a little bit yesterday. It looks already like the story out of Hawaii, if we're even capable of having this story in the mainstream news, right, is this story about Hawaiian electric stock yesterday just into the toilet, right, 40% down, because people believe, if you saw, there was some video yesterday of the current being left in the wires while they were being blown in the wind and touching the grass and creating fires, right? Very clearly. What you got to do there is turn that electricity off and then you won't burn. But it looks like the incompetence story that I mentioned yesterday, right? That this is, now I don't know anything about the causes of the fire. I'm not talking about the causes. I'm talking about what allowed the devastation and the dying to happen. It looks like there's going to be a revelation of incredible incompetence, like the stupidest things that people could have done happened. Because people are comparing it immediately to roads in Greece, one death in that fire. The fire was just as bad. The island's about the same size. And so now Hawaii Electric, along the same lines, and people worrying, that are investors, that it'll be the same thing as the Pacific Gas and Electric in San Francisco. I know one of the comments brought it up yesterday about how they did face a huge liability for the California fires. And that's why this money, that's why this stock value is going down. People worried already that there's going to be folks suing there. But remember the tension here between the media's ability to cover these stories and the appetite that normal people have for these stories to be covered are no longer sinking, which means the capacity to put people in the fake prison of two ideas is diminishing every day. And the appetite or the gravitational pull to pull them out of that, to realign the questions you need to be asking, is getting greater and greater, right? And now I can think of no better contrast yesterday for all of this shift than what we saw in the mainstream media. Again, they brought forward two women. You got to say women. It's part of the story, I think, in the way I'm going to take it anyway. So they brought Hillary Clinton onto Rachel Maddow's show yesterday, right? Hillary Clinton, they drag her out, right? So Hillary Clinton comes out and laughing, just cackling, doing her cackling laugh. Trump got indicted again today. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Right? Totally laughing. I can't believe we're here for this day, right? This is the same woman who has committed every single one of the crimes she accuses Trump of. Laughing, not a fear in the world, right? At the same time, so you get her on Rachel Maddow, and I won't even tell you what she said because obviously it's all a lie, right? Just cracking up, laughing. It's hilarious. She wasn't the only person laughing yesterday. She wasn't the only woman laughing on television yesterday. You had Janet Yellen. Yellen, our favorite. What have we predicted so many times? That Yellen, we know they're going to lose because the plan rests on Yellen's shoulders. And now I think even Hillary, it's like Hillary and Yellen are the hope to keep this thing together. And now they can do it because they get people so angry, right? So they definitely trigger people into being angry. But she was on TV yesterday, right, with her fucking face. Don't audit the Fed, right? You know this one? She does that face. So now she's got a thing where they're saying she took magic mushrooms when she was in China. Remember I told you this big plan was to send her to China, and she's actually, I'm not kidding, guys. If you believe that the Democrats and all these people are sophisticated, they're tough but not sophisticated, right? Their actual plan, as far as I can tell, unless it's to just completely put martial law in America and don't give us any elections and to completely outright steal, which might be the plan. The other plan, their plan B, is Janet Yellen and Hillary Clinton convincing you and charming you to see the world through the same lens as them. Now, the capacity of either of these people to convince anyone of anything is next to nothing, right? Unless they have the mainstream media behind them, which is losing its amplification, losing its power, losing its ability, right? So she comes out and talks a little bit about her hallucinogenic trip, has a real big laugh, ha, 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 ha. So between the two of them, right, between Hillary and Yellen, that's the plan. That's their plan B, right? Now, Bitcoiners, besides Trump, continuing to smash things and change things, the plan B that Bitcoiners have are both Vivek and RFK. Now, these are not people that we need to bring Bitcoin in. They're people we need to get the USA out of Bitcoin's way. And if that's our plan B, we're in much better position than the Democrats or the GOP. The GOP looks like their plan B is this DeSantis guy. Who I don't hate DeSantis, right? I'm not a hater, but I've always warned that the anti-woke guy is not the fight we want to be on. We're not going to win that fight as Bitcoiners, as anybody, right? We're not going to win a fucking woke versus anti-woke fight. It's a stupid fight, right? It's not even, we have no skin in the game, no dog, nothing. So let them have it, right? Let them each continue to fight the red and blue thing. It will make no difference to us because simultaneous to all this going on, right, we can see the realignment actually happening, right? The realignment is happening. If you go on MSN or CNBC, right, not MSNBC, but if you go on CNBC yesterday, you got Joe Kernan, right away talking about, do I buy bonds? Do young people buy bonds or do they buy Bitcoin, right? And clearly that now is becoming the main focus. It starts in markets and it's going to spread everywhere. Do you buy more government guarantees or do you buy something that breaks the mold? So in my mind, it's becoming real clear, right? Real clear. The future has become, now it's hard to predict the future, but it's becoming easier and easier, right? Bitcoin has viable plan Bs in both Republican camp and Democratic camp that I think are going to bring a refocus, not to red and blue fake prison ideas, but to actual green and orange establishment versus anti-establishment. And that's really all we need in order to get Bitcoin front and center for the 2024 elections. Now, I don't expect much fairness in the 2024 elections, but we don't need fairness, right? We're well positioned to suck up all of the disillusionment, the disenfranchised, the people that want to see the fake tension between red and blue go away, because that's the actual cause of American misery. Nothing to do with, what Trump said or or what this person said, right? It has everything to do with the lying and the brainwashing that's persistent, constant, never ending. And because of that, right, luckily, we have an awesome opportunity in front of us. You even get New York Times admitting it yesterday in one article, right? This is the negotiating phase. We're at the negotiating phase, right? They hate you. Now it is, okay, we admit. They had a headline yesterday. Now we admit. Young men like crypto. And the reason I mention the young men is because having, Hillary and Yellen on the same day, two older ladies, right, who look like they're running the system as we know it today, right? It looks like they're in the cockpit of the Democrat Party, laughing and cackling while this is going on, right? Where you've got Biden, no comment on what happened in Hawaii. And I think, by the way, Biden got sort of fired this weekend by his wife. That's Scott Adams' take, and I think that's accurate, right? If you were to tell Biden you're done, right, and he's not really there, when would you do it? Summer vacation, right? You're not going to make a scene. It's got time to process it. But he was saying, Scott Adams yesterday, making the argument that Jill basically told him this weekend, you're over, it's done, right? You're not doing another turn because you need time, right? They got to put Newsom in place. They got to try and put Kamala up, right? But none of it's going to work. RFK, I think, unless they kill him, is going to take it and can bring in new people and is going to change the Democrat Party. And even if Trump is arrested or whatever, Vivek is a fine replacement and could easily he is second place, right? There's no one else can touch him at this point. He's got all of Trump's skills and talents and learned exactly what Trump learned. And that's not easy for me to say, because I'll always say that Trump is probably the most talented person in this field when it comes to persuasion. He's the Michael Jordan of persuasion. And both Kennedy, whose entire plan is just to tell the truth, I think that is enough for him to win. And in Vivek's case, it's to get people excited, get people to know who he is, to win the media cycle every single day. And he does. Every single day, there's a new reason why everyone in the world is paying attention to Vivek, right? And he doesn't have to spend money on it because it's all earned media, because he's so good at what he does. So between all of it, right, we've got Plan B emerging out of the collapse of this system, which is a lot of fun. All right, let me unhook my mouse and start looking at some of these comments. Probably barely charged. All right. I got a Barbie reaction. Is good litmus test for knee-jerk reaction to that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. You remember? Yeah, very good point, Daniel. These people are like Ben Shapiro, right? The minute he saw the Barbie movie, he was like the first to see, oh, it's so stupid, misogyny, blah, 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 right? I watched it and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Right? I had no problem with my daughters there. No problem. I found it to be actually a conservative message, but that's just me, right? Jose, we need a 100-year-old president. No, it's Fetterman. We don't need 100 years old. We need a sub 100 IQ. 100 years old, sub 100 IQ is what I want. Right? I want an 80. I want a guy who the military doesn't even want. He's too stupid. That would be great. That would be great. Where do I sats? Let me see if I missed any up here. Oh, Canadian MSM at its finest. It sure is. I think it sure is. Hate peddlers are evil no matter which side they're on. Very well said, Jose. Very well said. Jevy, Trump didn't drain the swamp, but he did pull the plug blocking the drain. Yeah, look, again, I'll always appreciate Trump. My utmost desire for him is that he walks into some stadium after World War III and the whole place just loves him and cries, and he cries and all that stuff, right? That's what I want for the guy. He's too old to run. I wish he didn't have to do this. I wish he didn't. I wish it wasn't so crazy. And I wish, I just wish he could be the eminence grise, as we say in French, right? The graybeard. Yeah, this is Daniel talking about the pansexual response that Vivek gave. Just amazing. McShane in the house. Yo, what's up, McShane? Hope you're doing well. I'll talk to you later. That was the Barbie one. A bit late, but sleeping in feels good. P-Man, you better sleep in. It's getting darker later here. I was a little surprised. I woke up at my, 5 something, and I was thinking it was going to be 3 something, and I saw the time, and I was like, it's a little too dark. And then when I saw it was 5 something, I went, whoa, summer is almost over. Bitcoin graffiti. You got your own logo now. Yeah, it's awesome, huh? No, it's a Tommy special. We love it. We love it. AP News talking about the Rand Paul fire on July 21st. Excellent. Yeah, I don't know. So that was my question when I went searching for it, because some people said it was in direct retaliation for the criminal charges he brought against. But nevertheless, I mean, I wouldn't say it's not suspicious, right? Tommy, Vivek rapping Eminem on stage was pretty cringe, but probably genius move. Absolutely. Yeah. Look, selling eggs on a stick or rapping Eminem, which is more cringe. And he made news for it. I mean, you can't. I saw people laughing at him, but I mean, guess what? Vivek is a nerdy Indian kid, right? If you didn't know that, like, we got to love him for who he is. We love nerdy Indian kids. By the way, I was very, I don't know how to explain it. I reached out to Vivek the minute way before he was a vice president, presidential candidate. I reached out to him when he started talking about CBDCs, because he was locked in, and I was like, who's this guy? And I didn't know who he was. And so I started learning about him, and this would have been last November. And what I ended up, I traced him back. Basically, I knew someone who went to I found out that I knew someone who went to high school with him, and played on the tennis team with him, and a few other things. And so I did, a bit of due diligence on where he came from, because you always worry about people who come out of nowhere. Right? Not worry, but you have questions like, why did he come out of nowhere? Where did he come from? How come I never heard of him? But I got enough cleared up from that I think, there's enough there that he's honest anyway. That's what it looks like to me. And then meeting him, you get a sense too, right? So, Whitney Webb vibes today. Yeah, Whitney Webb was I think heavily quoted with a lot of this Ukraine stuff, right? Biden and his no comment when asked about how he was leaving the beach was insane lack of awareness. Yeah, but scary in a sense, right? It's like him not worrying about campaigning, right? That's the biggest red flag in America right now. That no one seems stressed on the Democrat side about the 2024 election. Nobody, right? If I'm sitting here telling you that the plan B is all us, right? It's Vivek. It's we on either party. It almost doesn't matter. Heads we win, tails you lose, right? That's what I'm seeing. Now, if that's what I'm seeing, why wouldn't the other side see that, unless they see the same, in that it's heads we win, tails you lose on their end as well? So I think we both think, right? The red, the orange, and the green, establishment and anti-establishment. I think everyone thinks they're in a good spot. Now, their information is coming from Yellen and Hillary and Aaron Rupar. So I like our odds of reality better, right? Way better. Again, predicting things, the advantage of predicting things is that it shows that if you get it right, that when you made the prediction, that you had a correct worldview. And the people predicting the Aaron Rupar stuff, right? These people get everything wrong. So what do you, like, at a certain point, that's what's going to happen. The best way to fight woke is ignore it. Hold your head high. Be good and righteous person. You have nothing to fear. P-Man, that is exactly it. That is exactly it, right? Billy, you are just running around all over Europe, getting out of fires, doing great. Awesome. I'll share I'll respond to your DM later with today with some plans. All right. Enmity, can you suggest a Michael Crichton book to read next besides the Jurassic Park series? Yeah, I sure can. His one on Airframe is pretty good. It's a book about corporate espionage. I liked. I'm trying to think of the one. I'm trying to think of the one with. There's one with a monkey on the cover. I can't remember the name of it, and it's not Congo though. I think he's got one on genetic modifications, and he's got one on global warming. All of them are sort of thrillers. I can't remember the names though. I haven't honestly read him stuff in 20 years. Zoo? Is that what it's called? Zoo? Is it called Zoo? Maybe. Yeah. Yeah, there's like a monkey on it. Something like that. All right. P-Man Van. So sorry, Emily, I wasn't much of a help. Airframe was good. I mean, I remember that. Airframe was good. All right. Smash the like, team. We love it. We love likes. Great show, Nolan. CK says. McShane says, morning, bro. Morning, bro. Morning, morning, morning. All right, team. That's all I got for today. Bit of a longer show, but I shall see you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Have a great day. Peace, everyone.